Hey guys, in this lesson we're going to continue working on financial applications for math. This one's going to be all about using technology though. So we're going to use what's called financial calculators. And in this current time period, 2020, you guys have got a lot of options. Back when I started teaching 20 years ago, we did not have apps that would do this for us. We had clunky old, what they were called, graphing calculators with really primitive sort of apps. And even before that, people had nothing. They didn't have calculators. They had to do everything by hand. So things are kind of easy for us now. And I'm going to show you one particular app that I use for a financial calculator, and I recommend it, but there's lots of other ones too. The one that I like is called, pardon me, is called Easy Financial Calculator. And all you have to do is type the information in, and it will calculate compound interest for us. It'll calculate present value for us. We can use it to find any variable in those formulas. It can do other stuff as well that we're not going to learn in this course, things called annuities, which are actually pretty helpful as well. So if you're financially minded kind of person, then I definitely recommend playing around with this a bit, because it can really give you an idea of how different conditions on investments would play out. Anyway, so let's start by looking at the calculator. This is my iPad, so it's Apple, of course, so I'll look at the Apple App Store, and if I just type in financial calculator, then you can see there's ones that you can pay money for, but there's lots of different possibilities. The one that I've got that I like is called Easy Financial Calculators. I've already downloaded it, as you can see. I'll just click open, and it's got all kinds of different possibilities that go along with it. Again, it's super helpful. You could get it for your iPhone. I imagine there's probably a Android version of it as well. Anyway, I'm going to use the one in the top left for today's lesson, TVM calculator. TVM stands for time, value, money, because those are the things that, I think, time, value, now I'm forgetting, time, value, anyway. Better move on. TVM stands for something, and I've forgotten what it is. Time is definitely the first one. Anyway, I think it's time, value, money. So here's what it looks like. You'll notice it's got some things on the side. Present value, payments, future value, annual rate, periods, compounding, mode, decimal. There's a lot of things that we don't need to worry about for it right now. If you ever get confused as to what they stand for, you can see there's a button that says instruction. I'll click that, and it gives a little bit of a reminder of what those different things stand for. There's a reset button beside instructions. I got nothing to reset right now. Email, I've never touched that. I don't know who I would email about this. Maybe I could email. Curious. Nothing happened. Oh, no, nothing happens. It does have ads on it, as you can see, because it is a free calculator. That's how they pay for it. Anyway, so that's see how we can use it. So going back to our note, we're just going to go through some examples. You can see it's really fast. This should be a short lesson because it won't take long when we type things in. So first, let's just do a straight up compound interest one. We've learned this formula here, A equals P times 1 plus I to the N. We have to calculate I, we have to calculate N, we have to know what P is, but if we use a financial calculator, we don't need to do all that. We just have to identify that this is our P for present value. We have to know that this is our annual interest rate. And we have to remember that A means annual rate. We do have to pay attention still to whether it's monthly or weekly or annually or semi-annually or quarterly. That word is still super important. And we do have to pay attention to time as well. 5 years. We need all that information to put into the calculator. All right. So I'm going to switch back to the calculator for a second. And so present value is what they call, so at the top left, present value is what they call P. So we call that principal, but in the calculator they call it present value. That's just another term for it. Now here's one thing that you need to do to make it work. I need to put a minus sign in front of my present value. So it was $2,000. Dave's investing $2,000. So I'm going to type a negative sign there. I'll put negative 2,000. The reason why I find all calculators, I've used several of them, do this, is I guess you can think of it as if Dave's investing $2,000, he's giving $2,000 to someone else, and then later on he's going to get some money back. So think of the giving away, temporarily giving away $2,000 as he's losing it. He's losing $2,000 temporarily. So you need to put that minus sign there to make things work out. So minus $2,000. There was 9.5%, just reading through the question. The next thing tells us 9.25% per annum. That's what goes into annual rate. Notice how it's got a percent sign beside annual rate. So you don't need to change that to a decimal. Just type in 9.25. It knows it's a percent, and that's good. The next thing was, just again reading through the question, it says compounded monthly. So you'll see compounding, it's already got monthly highlighted, but if I touch that, then I've got options of daily, weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, and annually. So we'll leave it on monthly. What will the investment be worth after 5 years? This is the one thing for this calculator that I do need to calculate myself. I'm not sure why they make me calculate it myself, because they could do it for me, but it says periods. Remember, that was our N. So if it's monthly for 5 years, that means that we need to know that N is going to be 12 times 5, or 5 times 12. So we actually do need to do that one calculation. So it's 60 in this case. Again, I don't know why. I mean, they could just as easily have said, since they know it's monthly, they could have just asked me how many years it was, and I could have put 5 in there, but that's not the way this one's set up. So I need to put that in there. Now, what I want to find is the future value. That's what we've been calling A. We want to know what it's worth at that time. So that would be our A value. They call it future value. You'll notice beside all these boxes, it says PV, so sort of to the right of the screen, the stuff that's farthest to the right, it says PV, PMT, FV, rate, periods. Those are all buttons. And so I can use those buttons to calculate things. So if I want to find future value, I'm going to hit that button that says FV, and it automatically just fills in the answer there, $3,170.45. That's my answer. That's how much it'll be worth in 5 years under those conditions. I could have got that using the formula A equals P times 1 plus I to the N, but this does it for me, and it does it a lot faster. I'm just going slower as I explain it, but it really is quick. There's a couple things I didn't use. So I didn't touch the payments one. You see that it says payment second from the top. That's for something else. That's, say you're paying a mortgage off, or you're paying off a car loan, or you're saving money. You say you put $100 a month into a bank account to save it. If you do regular payments, then it can work. It can tell you how much those payments will be worth after a certain amount of time, but that's not something we're worrying about today. Mode, it says beginning or end. End is the most common one. We're always going to leave it on end. Don't change it to beginning. As for decimal places, you could have 3 or 4 or 5 decimal places. 2 decimal places make sense because literally that rounds to the nearest penny, the nearest cent, right? So we'll leave that alone as well. So we don't need to touch any of those other things. Once I'm done, I hit the reset button, which is right near the bottom, and everything's cleared and ready to go for the next example. All right, and the next example was a present value one. An investment will be worth $4,000 in 4 years. The interest rate is 15% per year. It's compounded semi-annually, and they want us to find the present value. They want us to find out what P is. So again, they've given us everything we need. We will need to know N, the number of periods, so might as well calculate that now while I'm on this screen. So that would be the 4 years times semi-annually is twice. Semi-annually is twice a year. So periods is going to be 8. All right, so we can fill all these things in to see what we come up with. All right, so it was 4,000. No, sorry, present value is what I'm trying to find. My bad. So it'll be worth 4,000 in 4 years. So that's the future value, 4,000. Interest rate is 15%. Just make sure I got looking at the right one. 15%, 4 years, semi-annually. All right. So 15%. We saw that the periods was 8, 4 years, semi-annually. Compounding, I have to change that now. It's not monthly anymore, it's semi-annually. That's the second from the bottom one here. Switch it to semi-annually. I'll still leave payments blank. I want to find present value, so that button up at the top right-ish, PV, $2,242.81. And so I can ignore that negative sign because that's just telling me that I'm originally paying out that, but really, to answer the question, I don't need to include the negative sign, so it's $2,242.81 is the present value. I'll call it P, I'll call this A, because those are the ones that we're used to. But again, quick. The great thing about these financial calculators is they don't just find P and A, they can also let us find time in years, they can let us find the interest rate, and that's what the last two examples are about. Bob deposited $1,000, that is our P, into an account paying 8% per annum per year. It's compounded quarterly, that's 4 times a year. How long will it take the money to grow to $1,500? That is A. So it's asking us to find time. All right? So we have to find time. So this one, we want to find the number of periods. Well, we're going to use the calculator to find the number of periods. So it is, we know it is quarterly. So periods equals time, years, times 4, right? The only thing is we don't know how many years it is. So what we can do is we can use the calculator to find out the number of periods and then rearrange this formula to find out how many years it is. So let's put it all in. Remember, I'll hit the reset button, and the present value, the amount he deposited was $1,000, so negative 1,000. Skip payments. The final amount was $1,500, so that goes in here. The annual rate was 8%. We don't know what periods is. That's what we're going to find, but I need to change this from semi-annually first to quarterly. And then I can hit the periods button, and it gives me 20.48, so about 20 and a half. Let's call it 20.5. So that can go in here. 20.5 equals years times 4. So if I want to isolate the number of years, I could divide each side by 4, right? If I divide this by 4, then I'm just left with years on the one hand, on the right side, and whatever 20 divided by 4 is the amount of time. And that would be 5.125, or we could call that 5 1/8 years. So 5 years and 1.5 months. Anyway. Okay, so we do, if we're finding time, we do have to, again, because of the fact that it uses periods, do that extra calculation. It's too bad that this one does it that way, because otherwise, if it did it in time, it would give us our answer in time. Anyway, the last one, we can actually find the interest rate as well. So what interest rate compounded weekly is needed for an investment to double after 7 years. All right, so they don't give us any amount of money, but the good thing about this is it doesn't matter how much they give us to start with. All we have to do is make sure that the final amount is double the initial amount. So we do have to have some amount of money to put in there. So I'm going to let P be a certain amount. You know, it could be $1, it could be $1 million, but just for simplicity, maybe I'll say it's $100. Whatever amount I want P to be, then I need A, future value, to be double that. Okay? And with that, I do need to know what periods is again for my calculator. So that would be 7 years times 52, because there's 52 weeks in a year. So 7 times 52 gives me 364. So I do need to calculate that number. Now I've got everything I need for the calculator though. Hit reset. Present value I said I was going to make 100. Future value then is double that, 200. Annual rate was what we're trying to find. Number of periods I got was 364. The compounding was weekly, okay, and I want to find the rate, 9.91. That's my answer as a percent. So it's that quick, so easy to use. Hopefully you have a little fun playing with that, and let me know if you have any questions.